You see too much. That's the problem, you always have. And somewhere along the way you realize that seeing clearly is not a gift, it's a sentence. Everyone around you moves through life with a kind of graceful amnesia. They laugh at the right moments. They want the right things. They sleep through the night. And you stand there at the edge of every room, every conversation, every celebration, watching, not with contempt, but with something lonelier than contempt, with comprehension. You understand exactly what's happening, exactly why people say what they say, exactly what hunger is driving every performance in front of you. And that understanding cuts you off from all of it. You can see the machinery beneath the music, and so you cannot dance. This is the curse of clarity, not madness, not depression, though it wears both their faces. It's the specific agony of a mind that refuses to be fooled, not out of arrogance, but out of a wiring so deep you couldn't change it even when you desperately wanted to. And God, there were nights you wanted to. Nights when you would have traded everything you know for the ability to want what everyone else wants, to find the career satisfying, to find the weekend enough. To stop feeling like you're watching your own life through glass, translucent and cold, always 1 inch removed from the warmth everyone else seems to reach so easily. You're not broken, but you are different in a way that the world does not reward. The world is built for a certain kind of person, someone who can hold a comfortable lie in their chest and call it a dream, someone who can silence the deeper question beneath the surface question, someone who can confuse busyness with meaning and never notice the difference. You cannot do that. You tried. For years, maybe decades, you tried to perform the life that was laid out for you, and you felt, underneath every achievement, every milestone, everything you were supposed to want, a quiet, devastating nothing. Not tragedy, nothing, which is worse. Here is the truth they never told you about that emptiness. It is not a symptom of what's wrong with you. It is proof of something working exactly as it should. That void you feel when you do everything right and feel nothing, that's your refusal to be anesthetized. Most people build a life that answers only surface-level questions. You kept asking the deeper ones long past the point where it was comfortable, long past the point where it was welcome. The hunger you carry isn't pathology, it's orientation. You are pointed toward something true, even when you don't know what it is, even when the pointing exhausts you to the bone. But here's where clarity becomes a curse rather than a compass, when you use your understanding to exile yourself, when the seeing becomes a wall instead of a window. You've convinced yourself that because you perceive the scaffolding, you are forever outside the building, that because you know how loneliness works, you are sentenced to it. That intelligence about suffering is the same as immunity to connection. It isn't. It has never been. Understanding the mechanics of fire does not mean you cannot be warmed by it. The philosophers who wrestled with this, and there were many in every era, in every tongue, they didn't arrive at clarity and then float above the human mess in serene detachment. The honest ones came back down. They concluded that you cannot think your way out of needing. You cannot analyze your way past the body's requirement for touch, for presence, for the specific gravity of another person who knows you exist. The examined life is worth living, yes, but it still has to be lived. In rooms, with people. Through the unbearable and ordinary friction of being here, what you are learning slowly and at great cost is that the alienation you feel is not the final destination. It is a passage. The person who feels like an alien in every crowd is not someone who belongs nowhere. They are someone who has not yet found the right frequency. And those people exist. The ones who also see the machinery and have chosen consciously to love the dance anyway. Who have made peace not by going blind, but by understanding that the impermanence of everything is not a reason to hold back. It's the only real reason to step forward. The peace that is available to you, and it is available, it is not reserved for simpler people, is not the peace of answers. It is the peace of release, of deciding that you do not need the world to be more than it is in order for your life to be real. Of carrying your clarity not as a cross but as a lantern, small, enough to see the next step, not the whole road, just the next step. You were never meant to fit. You were meant to be fluent in a language most people never learn, the language of the underneath, the unsaid, the unbearable, and beautiful weight of being conscious in a world that prefers its people half asleep. That is not nothing. That is, in fact, everything. The question was never whether you belong here. The question is whether you're willing to stay.